Welcome to the Upper Bowl Podcast Live Edition, Eagles-Niners postgame show. I want to do something different because everything gets boring. Everyone does the live stream now. I think it'll be fun if we do a postgame show, and I want friends to do this with. And lo and behold, I have a few friends in San Francisco radio, and it makes it so much fun to talk sports, especially when it's Eagles-Niners. I bring on the morning show producer of the Morning Roast, who's probably going to throw a parade since they beat the Eagles. The 49ers. Sam Lubman, welcome to the Upper Bowl Podcast Live Edition. You are the first guest ever for going. We're going live, is what Bill
first
O'Reilly
live guest.
say.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. No. I mean,
how much fun was this game? I'll say that.
I mean, I'd say it's after those first two drives definitely got a lot more fun after that. But that was I was expecting a much closer game than what we saw. So I'll be honest, I was kind of surprised by how this game went. You definitely did not think that this was going to be a blowout. I thought this was going to be a little bit closer. And I think when the Niners were talking about all that smack after that game last January, saying, "Oh, we would have beaten them. We had the game plan ready." I don't know. Maybe this kind of gives a little bit of credence to what they were saying there in terms of just what they think they could have done. Because obviously the storyline last time in January was the Eagles didn't have to deal with Brock Purdy. And this time they did. And he was absolutely a big difference between this game versus, what went down in that last game.
I'll definitely agree with that. Brock Purdy I feel like we got robbed. I always say we got robbed last year of a good NFC title games. I want to see what a healthy Brock Purdy looked like against that Eagles defense, which was great under Jonathan Gannon. This year, I've said ever since they got Jarius Byrd from Tennessee, it looked like the Eagles secondary has been slower and slower and slower against these fast wideouts. Like CeeDee Lamb got torched them like it's Kerry Williams and Asante Samuel in its prime, and seeing these fast guys like CMC, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, which I've always loved coming out of Arizona State. Seeing them torch this Eagles secondary, I looked at it as I was expecting it because the speed kills on this Eagles defense no matter what. And there's no linebacker play the Eagles have had forever. So I'm not mad about it anyways.
Yeah.
Shout out
I think the Niners, the Eagles, they were starting a couple backups at linebacker today, right?
Yeah, it was very Zach Cunningham was out with a hamstring injury. He got out during the Bills game anyway. So I saw that. I was like, okay, he was kind of a difference maker, but he's not the true difference maker. Like Nakobe Dean, who's been out he's on IR of a plantar fasciitis, so he's out for the year. The good old Jalen Mills surgery, which once you have that, you're slow as cinder blocks, I'd like to say.
So don't mind me. I'm printing out all the stats from the game right now as they become available.
I like stats.
I try to have my numbers available for me. But that was kind of going to be an interesting matchup there going into this game. Was how the Eagles secondary holds up against the Niners, especially with the linebackers missing. I think you saw Brock was really kind of finding a lot of those passes in the middle there to get out of jail. There was one play at one point. I got to remember where in that game that was, where they motion McCaffrey kind of, to the left that kind of draws the linebacker and man coverage out of the middle there, opens things up for Juwan Jennings on a huge third down there to Jennings. It was one of those, huge momentum swinging plays. And we were texting kind of during the game. I kind of brought that up to you. And it's just, the Niners really taking advantage of, kind of the inexperience the Eagles had there in the middle with their linebacking core out. And then, the Niners, they don't really have any speed burners in this receiving core. Like Deebo is not a super fast guy. Juwan Jennings not a super fast guy.
He looks fast though. He looks
fast. He runs fast, but he runs hard. But he's not like a typical speedster in the way that like a Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill or
Deshaun
even
Jackson,
like Devontae Smith would be. Deshaun, guys who just burn you off the line. But there was some great route running today. Brandon Ayuk, great route runner. And Niners really just took advantage of an Eagles secondary that, I can understand why they've been having issues. I could say
it the whole year. It's like this whole secondary has been brutal. Like they don't have a safety play at all. They have Sidney Brown, who's out of Illinois, who's a rookie, and he needs to learn from Kevin Byard, which I'm fine with. But sometimes you got to have the secondary just learn a little bit, have these young kids learn, even though you may get torched to death. Like I bring this up, like Noah Igbenogany got burned by Russell Wilson for the Dolphins. Sometimes you got to learn to get burned and you rebound and stuff.
Yeah, and again, maybe this is kind of one of those things where the Niners kind of rebounded from that loss back in January in that NFC title game. I mean, it was all. I think it was safe to assume that this game was never going to be kind of a redux of that because again, the Niners did have a healthy quarterback all game long this time. I don't think it would have been the blowout that we saw today, but it does kind of like, it's always going to be the big what if of what kind of game we would have gotten back in January if Hassan Reddick had never busted Brock Purdy's UCL, and that was kind of like two evenly matched teams there. I'm kind of curious, like, it seems like it's hard to look at this game without looking at through the lens of what happened last January. And the chatter around this game was, these teams are different this year. It's not the same teams. The 2023 Eagles, not the 2022 Eagles. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of curious, like, where do you think those differences really look most pronounced today on the Eagles side?
I think the big thing is the secondary mostly. Like losing Marcus Epps, who went to the Raiders this year, was huge. I think he was great in the secondary, especially the safety play. The safety play has been brutal for the Eagles, I will say, this whole year. Like Bradbury, I was really surprised that they re-signed him because I felt like, I don't trust this re-signing of a 3-year deal,
Yeah.
Darius Slay wanted a trade because he was trying to, like, they were trying to move him and stuff because he wanted a new deal and stuff, and he just re-signed after a year for 1 year. It also just shows like they need to get younger, especially after Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, which I feel like those two were not seen at all today. Like you didn't see Brandon Graham, you didn't see Fletcher Cox at all. Like those guys felt like invisible today. Like the whole D line, like, oh, this great D line is everything. Like Hassan Reddick showed up, and you only saw Josh Sweat when he ever got penalties of approachment or that. Pretty much, it's like the D line did not show up today, which was very surprising. But I also look at it as this: the Eagles went 3-1 through the gauntlet of before they played the Cowboys before the bye week, then they go to Kansas City and they played the Bills. Yeah, I'm not totally mad at the Eagles right now. Like you went 3-1, I'll take that at all. But I'll say this: the Niners needed to win the game today, and I'm like looking at it as like it's a statement game to show like we're still here. The Niners are still here, and like we don't mind if we have to go to a rematch in Philadelphia for an NFC title game, or if the Eagles have to go up to Santa Clara, which I'm not. I would be down for either one. Anyways,
I think you hit the nail on the head right there. I do think this game probably meant a little bit more for the Niners in that they had to kind of show that what happened last January was a fluke. I feel like if the Niners did lose this game today, it would have been just like. Well, first off, the 1 seed absolutely is out of the picture now if the Niners had lost today. And then the Eagles probably are cruising to an easy 1 seed. And the Niners probably are looking at maybe even the 3 seed and having to go to Detroit possibly in the second round.
I will say this, you guys will definitely win in Detroit. I think Detroit.
Well, honestly, I didn't even know Detroit would make it to the second round at this point. Watching their defense right now, that is not a defense that's going to hold up in the playoffs. Now, if they get the 3 seed, they'll probably be getting like the Vikings or maybe even the Rams in that first round. And in a playoff atmosphere, I mean, maybe against those teams if they have a bad day, but the Lions are not a threat in the playoffs. It is absolutely the Niners and the Eagles in this conference. And again, right now the Eagles still have a firm grip on the 1 seed, not as firm as they did this morning. But if the Niners had lost today, if you're the Niners, you're thinking just like, oh man, how do we get over this hump? And you had everything going, and early on, talk about that first quarter there. It looked like this was going to possibly be a long day. My thought was, Niners they go 3 and out on their first 2 drives, and there's only one play that involved McCaffrey on it. That was on the first third down of the game. They had a 3rd and 12. Brock throws it high to CMC on the right side. There's a little bit of rain. The ball looked like it did not come out of his hand very well. Right away, you're thinking, and the Eagles again, they're already on the board 3-0 after a very good first drive there. That honestly they should have scored. Trevarius Ward had. I
was ready for that matchup all day. I was ready.
Ward had a great knock, batted a ball away on AJ Brown on the left side of the end zone. That would have been a touchdown. Absolutely great play by Trevarius Ward there that saved a touchdown, forced the Eagles to take that field goal. That was huge. But then the Eagles come out. The Niners come out. They go 3 and out. It's not looking good. Eagles again driving down the field. Then they get held up and they're forced to take another field goal there. But it was looking kind of ugly there because again, Niners another 3 and out there. Purdy throwing it away, nowhere to go, 3rd and long, and it's just like Kyle's opening script was just not working. And in the past with Shanahan, when those opening plays don't really work out as he expects them to, he's kind of froze up a little bit. Like
he adapted really well. He pivoted really well today.
He struggled with that in the past. The game I always remember is 2 years ago in 2021 season, when they faced the Packers on Sunday night at Levi's.
Yes.
The first couple of drives just were not going anywhere. He was trying to run the ball up the middle. It wasn't going anywhere. He was just hammering that same game plan, was not adjusting whatsoever. It really wasn't until like the 3rd quarter where he really kind of started to open the ball up more, throw it a little bit more, and the Niners got back into that game. They eventually lost, though, when Aaron Rodgers set up the Mason Crosby game winner as time expired. But the conversation all week was Kyle Shanahan got hit in the mouth and he had no way to respond. And that's always been kind of, it's happened at times with Shanahan. I think it happened with the Browns a little bit too. Get off to a slow start, not really sure what to do. The weather's a factor. Yeah. Here again, Kyle Shanahan, he got hit in the mouth right off the bat, and it wasn't looking good. But then you come back in the second quarter, your first drive of the second quarter there, and again,
it's like the Eagles front attack. The Eagles are front four attacking the run game. Brandon Ayuk is the first completion to Brock Purdy. Eureka, I said. Then they get another first down by George Kittle. I always say this: Brock Purdy could spread the ball out very well. He goes for spots. It's like how I view Tua. He throws at spots. He doesn't aim for wideouts or targets. He aims for spots really well. And more Ayuk, I always say like more Ayuk. I think he was the big thing. I was like, people were like, how are the Eagles going to stop this Niners offense? Like, you gotta stop Brandon Ayuk. I think he was the biggest thing in Deebo Samuel, and they did not do a good job covering Brandon Ayuk at all. So
no. Let me see if I can pull up what Ayuk's stats were here on the day. Because it seems like he had such an incredible day that you always like to see at him. And he's probably one of the most untalked about guys who are a number one. Like he's not like a typical number one the way that like guys like Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson are. But I mean, he's still a guy who I think if you're drafting wide receivers, he's probably going in the top 12 today. 5 receptions for like 46 yards today, though. It was Deebo Samuel, though, downfield. 4 receptions for 116 yards, who really carried the day. There's such a big day for Deebo. He really was a major difference maker in this game. But he backed his shit up.
He backed his shit up.
He was talking that trash. He was talking trash on James Bradbury. And he absolutely backed up the trash talk today, showing a vintage Deebo Samuel performance because he is a difference maker. You take him out of this offense. You saw it against Cleveland when he wasn't there. You saw it
in Minnesota.
And in Minnesota, it is this offense is different without him. Guys can focus more on Christian McCaffrey when Deebo's not available because there's so many plays that Kyle Shanahan runs out of the backfield where he has McCaffrey and Deebo lined up. And how many times do you see Brock fake it one way and then give it to the other way? And early on, the Eagles were sniffing that run out. They really were. There was a couple times early on where, again, the jet sweeps to Deebo weren't going anywhere. The runs up the gut to McCaffrey weren't going anywhere. But once Brock really started getting in that downfield passing attack, especially on third down, Travis, the Niners were 7 of 10 on third down. Brock throwing the ball on third down was 8 of 8 for 114 yards. After they started out 0 for 2, the Niners they started 0 for 2 on third down. Let me make sure I got this right. 0 for 2 on third down. They were, I believe, 7 for 8 the rest of the way.
Yeah.
And the only one they didn't convert ended up on a 4th in inches that they got on the next play. So, I mean, it's like Brock was absolutely money on that third down. When you got Brock really hitting those money passes, especially on the money down, it forced you to kind of back things off there. You got to be more honest on the pass, opens things up in the run game. And it's a pick your poison with this Niners offense.
Definitely, which I always feel like there's a lot of offenses that are pick your poison, especially the Cowboys offense. You got to pick what are you going to stop the pass or try to stop the run at least. And the Niners, I feel like you got to stop the run. But the pass will burn you no matter what. So you got to figure out what you want to stop. I feel like both teams, when you look at the NFC, both great at running the ball, Cowboys and the Niners. Passing the ball, I always say that both are very great at it. And like Shanahan has a few more wrinkles than Mike McCarthy does anyways.
Yeah, absolutely there. And I think that's a big part of when trying to stop this Niners run game, as we're focusing on that, is sometimes it's just so hard to tackle McCaffrey and Deebo. Yeah. I mean, how many broken tackles that Deebo had today? He had so many. He is just such a pain in the ass to bring down. McCaffrey, same thing. And that is where the Niners really feast, is those making underneath. Guys. They're hard to tackle. And when you got these guys, they bounce off of them. They're able to get those extra yards. That's where all of a sudden this run game really starts to churn you apart. And I think this also when you saw the Eagles kind of their fatigue on defense really start to kick in there too. They really started to look gassed there in the second quarter when the Niners start going on those large drives. And a lot of, I think you mentioned at the early point, like the Eagles defensive line was
invisible.
Not really. Yeah, it was not really anywhere to see. I think I texted you at one point, like, how many times we've heard Jalen Carter's name called today? None. I think he finished with 3 total tackles combined in solo. And for a guy who's been, I mean, they brought him in to replace Javon Hargraves. And Hargrave, another guy, I don't really think you heard his name all that much today either.
I feel like I haven't heard either name. Like, I feel like I haven't seen Hargrave's name at all. Jalen Carter's name was, I think they showed a clip of him losing his emotions pretty much, showing like hitting number 75 on the Niners and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it, I was like, people were hyping up this kid to be the next Jerome Brown, as all the UM and alumni know. People were hyping up. I was like, what? I was like,
well, he was the reason why they weren't sad that that Javon Hargraves went to the Niners, because they had Jalen Brown to immediately go to.
Jalen Carter.
Yeah, because they had Jalen Carter to get in the draft there. So, yeah, absolutely. But again, the fact that he was so invisible against the Niners offensive line that has not been, it's been playing a lot better than you would expect.
The right side, I still have questions for. That's my biggest.
I was surprised that Burford got the start over Feliciano.
Mm-hmm.
Burford, I think, had a couple procedurals there. He got beat a little bit as well here and there, but for the most part, a very clean day. A guy whose name was not called, I think, at all today was Colton McKivitz on that right side. Mm-hmm. And I know he's been a big kind of point of consternation for 49ers fans this year. But after dealing with, Mike McGlinchey last year, McKivitz has been, I think, almost an upgrade over McGlinchey so far this year, just because, again, you're rarely hearing from him. Brock got knocked around by Hassan Reddick a little bit early on, a couple early sacks in that first quarter. After that, though, he was upright for most of the game. He had lots of time most of this game. And again, this offensive line, along with Juszczyk and George Kittle, they were opening up massive holes for CMC to run through. Even saw little Elijah Mitchell there in, I think, the third quarter, got a 15 yards on 2 carries, which, I'm cool with that. I'm always cool with Elijah Mitchell picking at the scraps here and there.
Yeah, they always show like the Niners have other options at running back besides Christian McCaffrey. So it's perfect anyways. Plus, I love a nice fullback talk anyways with Kyle Juszczyk anyways out of Harvard. Gotta love it so much. My big thing was I never saw Brock Purdy get the wheels trying to go for that touchdown in the red zone. I was like, Brock Purdy got some wheels. Like, I like that out of his game. Because I always thought like he's just a pocket guy, and then he like goes out like, oh shit.
He is surprisingly nimble. There was a play in the second quarter where, and then the Niners' second drive of that touchdown score, Brock tries to run it in there, and I think Bradley Roby tried to tackle him, just bounces right off of him, and he just kind of slipped out of the tackle there. Just one was like, it's impressive just the way Brock is able to evade some of these tackles. He doesn't look like the most athletic quarterback in the world, but he is surprisingly nimble. Not blazing speed. He's not a guy who's going to be a run-first quarterback. He's never going to be a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes or even Jalen Hurts. He's never going to be able to run like them, but he runs just enough. I think one of the big complaints with Jimmy Garoppolo, there's a lot of them. One of the big complaints about Jimmy Garoppolo was just he was stone feet. He had stone feet there in the pocket. He could not get out of trouble when the pressure really broke down around him. That's when you got those Jimmy O no throws, because he's got him in a panic there. And
Jimmy, oh no, I'm in the end zone right now.
Again, he's got the happy feet there, and just Jimmy's footwork was always a problem. Brock Purdy does not have the footwork issues that Jimmy Garoppolo had, and Brock Purdy, he's got sneaky scrambling ability that's always online there. And again, it seems like whenever you want to bring up the Brock Purdy MVP debate, like something doesn't seem right there. Like, come on, Brock, really? But this is one of those games, the way Brock played today, the way he caught the Niners out of trouble on third down, every drive in which the Niners converted on third down, they scored. And again, Brock was the one throwing the ball on these third downs. And so, I mean, they call it the money down for a reason. Brock was money on the money down. That's what you do in those situations. That's how you set yourself up as an MVP candidate. I know it's easy to look at Christian McCaffrey or Deebo Samuel as being, the guys who make this 49ers team go as MVP candidates, but this is where Brock, he's the conductor of this orchestra here. He's the one who's making it all go. You think the Niners are doing this well if Sam Darnold's under center today? Do you think the Niners are going, 7 of 8 are going 7-10 on third down, including 7 of the last 8 with Sam Darnold under center? Like, Sam Darnold is not performing that well on third down as Brock did today. And when you're trying to make that Brock Purdy MVP discussion, I think that's where you start with today, is just how he played there. And then it goes from there. He had 314 yards passing, I think 4 touchdowns. The dude was masterful. I mean, there was no bad throws that he had today too. I think he had one where he tried to force it into Ayuk. When he tried to roll left, tried to force it into Ayuk. Eagles safety came up, almost made the play on it, kind of knocked it out of Ayuk's hands. Wasn't really a great ball. It was probably a ball Brock should have just held on to, or maybe try to tuck and run. But because that's where Brock's mistakes come from, is when he tries to get aggressive and make that play when he's in trouble. But there was only one play of that today, and honestly, you still live with it because the thing that I still scored on that drive.
I know. The funny thing is Joshua had a penalty in that series, I believe.
Yeah, there's a couple times in these drives where the Niners were absolutely saved by a penalty or some sort of just mistake by the Eagles early on. especially on offense too. I think that second field goal was set up because Jalen Hurts just completely slipped.
Yeah,
in the back.
He had the case of the Jimmy Garoppolo happy feet.
Like,
I looked at it like,
monster, man.
Hey, at least it's not the turf at MetLife Stadium. That's the worst.
Well, yeah. Well, then he would have been out for the game for real instead of going to concussion protocol. But yeah, also, how about Javon?
I want to know what is the concussion protocol these days?
Yeah, Javon Kinlaw got his first sack in 3 years today on that Jalen Hurts slip. I mean, that's the easiest sack you're gonna ever get in your life. So congratulations to Mook Dog for pulling that one in and finally snapping that streak.
I know.
But yeah, that had to be you're never going to get a sack that easy again in your life if you're Javon Kinlaw.
No, I will say this. That was a fun it was a good game anyways. We got to talk about the main story. Dom Solinsky, the Eagles bodyguard.
Oh my God. We buried the lead on that one.
We buried the lead. That is the biggest lead.
My thought there was because Greenlaw, he can get very aggressive on these hits. Sometimes he plays very reckless. I decided to call him Draymond Greenlaw.
I like that.
He gets these reckless penalties, getting in the coach's face. He got a little too emotional there, got ejected. Luckily, it didn't impact the Niners, that much in this game. But
that was
you got to
be
smarter there,
turning point. Greenlaw. I was looking at it like this could be a turning point for 100%. I could see it happen. I was like,
almost was because the Eagles, they score on that drive. First off, so they get the penalty there and then they had the ball on the 14. And all of a sudden you're on 3rd and 11, just a couple plays later. Hurts has that money pass to AJ Brown, gets him to the 2. Then they do back-to-back tush pushes. And all of a sudden it's a 21-13 game. And the Niners have a drive where it's just like, if you don't score here,
boom.
Eagles are back into it. Then they're in 3rd and 7. Brock hits Ayuk on that comeback route. That was the big play of the game. Gets 12 yards there. And then that sets up the big CMC run. And then you hit Debo over the middle. He breaks a tackle and he's going to the house. Those 3 plays right there basically won the game for the Niners. Because the Eagles had a chance to take this game back, force a quick 3 and out, get the ball. Maybe they score again. All of a sudden you got a 21-20 ball game here. And you're rolling, you're coming back. The crowd's into it. But when you had those 3 plays in succession, Ayuk, CMC, Debo, and again, what's the big what do those 3 plays have in common? All 3 of those plays started with Brock starting with the ball in his hands there.
The Brock Star, I'll call him the Brock Star. Like
they're riding the rocket ship out in outer space. That's for sure.
Definitely. I will say this: when I saw that big score, like, the Eagles done. The Eagles can't stop anything. Here's the funnier thing: I always feel like the Eagles and Niners, no matter what the records are, it's an entertaining game. Doesn't matter if it's like early. It doesn't matter if it's Jeff Garcia was there, Ken Dorsey, Sean Hill, JT O'Sullivan. The Eagles and Niners actually pull out either an entertaining game or it's a blowout. And you look at it, and it was like the Eagles had a big winning streak in 2003 versus the Niners came into Philly and they beat them in overtime. The Eagles and Niners. But Eagles were being underdogs, everything, and the Niners were getting no love at all. Come into Philadelphia and win and stuff. It's literally the craziest. Like when you look at it's a 2-sided thing. Like anything can happen in any of these games at all. It feels like the old Eagles Giants games in the back of the day.
Yeah, well, I know I think we were saying it earlier at the beginning of the game. It felt like a lot like that 2021 matchup early on.
Yes, I was at that game actually. I
remember that game. It was just an offensive grind in that one.
Yes.
You get 17-11, such an ugly football score.
First game back with fans, I was there like this game stinks. It's like I never leave game early. I left at the 5-minute mark. Eagles aren't scoring. I'm out.
Yeah,
never
hard to believe that. Yeah, those are your 6 and 7 seeds in the NFC that year. And now look at those 2 teams rule the NFC. Wild how fast things change in the NFL. And I do think I think you mentioned, I think before the show, can this, really turn into the kind of rivalry that the Cowboys Niners was early in the 90s. I still think it's a little early for that. I think we need one more rematch here in the playoffs to really kind of cement that. But again, that was
it has to be in San Francisco this time. Santa Clara. Correct
in the Bay Area. Yeah, the Niners need to have the home game there.
It feels like it needs to be home and home, and it needs to be like if we can get 3 or 4 NFC title games, if both teams will show up every year, it's gonna be the funnest, it'll be the primetime game of the week, anyways. Yeah, I feel like the NFL needs a coast to coast rivalry. That's the problem. There's none.
Well, it's hard, especially because the NFL, these things change so fast. In the NFL window is like 3-4 years long. Both these teams look pretty set at quarterback for the long term. So, when you have a quarterback, you can at least start there. But you look at the Niners. I mean, George Kittle. I mean, he's like 28 years old. He's getting into the late 20s. Christian McCaffrey's 27. He's got a lot of miles on his body. A lot of the Niners playmakers have a lot of wear and tear on them, and eventually they're going to have to start moving off them and getting some younger options there. So I'd be curious to see. But again, I don't want to talk about the window right now with the Niners or the Eagles because both of them are wide open right now.
It's an open bay window. It's a nice open bay window.
Yeah, it seems inevitable.
Open bay window for balcony, I like to say.
Yeah, it seems inevitable we are going to see this matchup again at some point, probably in January. I was like, look at the Niners schedule the rest of the way. I think the only game that they have left on their schedule that worries me is when they host the Ravens on Christmas night. Ravens, incredibly good team. Look about as good as any right now. That's going to be a tough offense to shut down. Yeah. I don't know if the Niners can win that one. Other than that, though, I mean, so the Niners could easily finish 13-4. Eagles, the only tough game they really have left on their schedule is, they go to Dallas next week, right?
We go to Dallas next week.
Then you have to go to Seattle.
They flex that game to Monday Night Football.
Oh, that's right.
So
that'll be a good one there. And then they go to Seattle on the short week.
Yeah.
I think they can still win that. The Eagles still win that game. The Seahawks are not very good.
Plus, the Eagles haven't won up there. I sent you this. They haven't won up there since 2008.
They haven't won in Seattle?
They have not won in Seattle since 2008.
I mean, how many games have they played there? The one,
2011, they got blown out on Thursday Night Football. 2016, they got blown out on CBS. And 6-17, we lost Sunday night. So 16, they got blown out on CBS. They lost the following year on Sunday Night Football, which ended a winning streak. And then we haven't been out there since forever. So that's why. So it's like,
yeah. So I mean, part of it is that when you're not out there that often, that'll play into it. But this is not a good Seahawks team. Again, the Seahawks, they continue to, and they insist that they could win with Geno Smith. They need to figure out a way to move off of Geno. He is not it.
Oh my God.
They are going to be a perennial 9-win team as long as Geno Smith is on that team. If they can get a real quarterback, then you're talking, but I just don't know where you're finding that real quarterback right now. Oh, so the Eagles can very easily still finish with a 14-3 record this year, even if they lose to Dallas next week. Because got the Giants, Cardinals, Giants after that.
I could say it's a giant. The Cowboy game's a must-win game. I'll say that.
Oh,
you have to win. If they haven't swept the Cowboys in 2011, there's a part of me would like to see that, and then the division will be pretty much wrapped up, like with a bow under Christmas tree, like ready to go with the sugar cookies and everything ready for Santa. Then they got Seattle. They got the Giants on Christmas night, the 5 o'clock game, 2 o'clock game if you want to get away from your in-laws or anything. Because I know everyone in Sanford's like, we might as well watch this Eagles beat the crap out of the Giants with Tommy DeVito under center. They got that. Then they got Arizona, which they're a frisky team. The Cardinals are frisky. And Kyler Murray's playing for his job. And I think I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to say it's going to win, but I think that could be a very close game, honestly. Like, I'm not putting the Cardinals
in Arizona, or do you guys host them?
We're hosting them.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, that's, again, I think the Cardinals just aren't. There's not a very good team. I mean, they got pieces. No. They'll fight. They'll kick in and they'll scream. But the Eagles right now, I really feel like the Niners just kind of seem to catch the Eagles at a good time. It felt like this game felt more like a product. Like both teams are kind of a product of the last few weeks in this game. That and in different ways. Like for the Niners, they after the win in Seattle they had last Thursday night on Thanksgiving, that game was never in doubt. That was coming off a no-doubter in Jacksonville. I mean, they've burst out of the bye week here, looking about as good as you can. And I thought they were about as ready to face the Eagles this week as they possibly could have been. Contrast that to the Eagles, who, again, they had a gauntlet here. Again, had to face the Chiefs, and then they had to face the Bills. 92 plays, like the 7th most plays ever, or something like that. Just a ridiculous amount. The Eagles, I don't think, caught the Niners at the best time. And I do think that showed. I think if in this kind of, but at the same time, like there's no excuses. I mean, the Eagles caught the Niners at a bad time in the NFC title game last year when Brock Purdy went down. Okay, I think the worst part of that game isn't that Brock went down; it's that Brock going down really robbed us. If I would have been an all-time classic of an NFC title.
Oh my God! Oh yeah, I feel like that first NFC title game was like, oh, we may be entertaining it all. Like, oh crap, the Niners are here to play.
Yeah.
Then we knock them out. I was like, I'm bored. That's how I felt.
It was not a clean win. That's the thing, and there's no way you could be a legit a rational Eagles fan and say that was a clean win.
No, I was like, I'm bored. It's like, cool, we're going to the Super Bowl. It's like I wanted a test from the Niners.
I know you really wanted to earn it. I mean, a trip to the Super Bowl is fun and all, but yeah, you wanted to earn it. But again, I'm not saying this is what would have happened if Brock Purdy was healthy and playing. But like, again, that's just how the game works. You got to play the schedule that you have. You got to play the situation that you have. And the Niners were able to take advantage today. And I think, yeah, there was a little bit of anger there, but I'm kind of curious if the Eagles do still hold on to the 1 seed, which I still think they can. Do you feel like
I could see them blowing it too? I could see them blow it occasionally. I could really honestly see like a hiccup here and there. I could really do. But
does this game affect your confidence though that what the Eagles could do if they do host the Niners in the playoffs?
I honestly would say this it could go either way, because I want to see because the Eagles didn't have Dallas Goedert, who had a forearm injury during the Dallas game before the bye. I think that was a big thing. The Eagles offense have not been the same since Dallas Goedert has been out anyways. And the tight end play is just putrid. And also there's like rumors that Zach Ertz wants to come back to the Eagles. He's on the waiver wire right now and stuff. And they're horrible at linebacker play, which has been the biggest thing that their problem is anyways. So I'm kind of worried about like this could honestly go either way. If we go down the road NFC title game rematch, it could go down to maybe the final possession probably, like both teams healthy and everything.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the game we were hopefully expecting today. We just didn't get that. I'm very happy that they didn't come down to a field goal. I'll be honest. One of the things I was very nervous about was when I was watching that Bills game, watching Jake Elliott nail that kick in the rain with room to spare. My first thought was, holy geez, I hope this week does not come down to a 49ers field goal, because that is too much to ask for Jake Moody. But probably would have made it. The weather was not an issue today. It was a little misty in that first quarter. The weather dissipated very, very quickly, and we were able to have a real football game there. I mean, a little slippery, obviously, in that first quarter there, as Jalen Hurts saw, but for the most part, weather not a factor in this game.
Jordan Cleats not great in the rain. I'll say that for sure. Jordan Cleats, fix your cleat job up. I will say this. So I've been to a couple of Eagle Niner games. I went to the one in 2017, which the Niners had CJ Beathard as your quarterback.
Yeah.
I was at that game, which was a blowout, by the way. And you had like Pierre Garçon and everyone. It was right before Jimmy Garoppolo came to town. I was at that game. Then I went to saw Jimmy Garoppolo start versus the Niners against the Eagles in 2021. And I look at it as like, okay. And you look at like most games, and it's a rainy game. That field does not get ruined at all. Like when you look at other fields, like in like Washington, which that field has like puddles all the time, anyways, or like Chicago, they do a good job in making the turf be completely perfect. Like they had no Temple football, which is great since that season is over with. So they literally put new sod down. So the Eagles had no problems at all, anyway. So. And neither the Niners. So I think it's an even playing surface, anyways, when you look at it between the Eagles and the Niners. When you look at it, so I think it's gonna be really entertaining once January football comes around. I'll say that for sure.
Oh, I absolutely agree with that. I think that's the one big takeaway is that we will get a very good NFC title game should these two teams match up. Again, assuming everyone's healthy, again, you're going to have a fresher team. The Eagles will have a bye week in the playoffs if they do get that 1 seed. I will say this, if you're talking about playoff confidence, I mean, if the Eagles do fade down the stretch here and the Niners do hold that 1 seed, again, the Niners now have that tiebreaker. So they have a 1-game lead there, but on them. But if it's a tie, obviously the Niners will host that. If the Eagles got to come out here, I don't think the Eagles really have a chance if they got to come out here and play in front of this Niners crowd, because Levi's may not be the greatest stadium, but when the fans show up, they can turn it into an electric atmosphere there.
I think because here's the funnier part. There's so many Eagle fans on the West Coast. And you have other people. I always say this. The West Coast Eagle fans, I went out to Arizona. Most Eagle fans on the West Coast will spend beaucoup money on wherever the game is, and I will probably do that as well when you look at it. Like when you look at the NFC, like if the Eagles fall to like the 5 seed, they'll probably go to Atlanta. That's a win.
No, there's no way they're going to fall that far. I think.
No, I always say that. Like,
will probably do is probably 13-4. I think that they would, if they were the worst the Eagles could do the rest of the way is maybe a loss to the Cowboys.
Yeah,
but after that, I mean, Seahawks, Giants, Cardinals, Giants. I mean, maybe you lose to the Giants in that Week 18 game or something like that. But I mean, it just falling beyond that. What's the Cowboys record right now?
The Cowboys are 9-3 right now.
Okay, so they're 9-3. So if they win,
so it's literally like the Niners and the Cowboys are tied at the same record almost.
Yeah. So if the Cowboys beat the Eagles,
be 10-3.
It'll be 10-3. The Eagles will be 10-3. And if both teams win out, who has a tiebreaker there since they split it? Probably goes to divisional record then, right?
Yeah, because now,
I mean, the Eagles would probably then win their last 2 against the Giants, and so they're going to finish 5-1.
Yeah, and the Cowboys swept the Commandos, and they swept the Giants.
And they'll split. So they'll both be 5-1 there again still. So then it would probably go to conference record. So I'm not that tiebreaker's beyond what I want to think about right now.
Too much math for me. Too much math for a D3.
Well, I don't know where their conference records are. I could probably pull it up really quick on ESPN here and see if we can do some live on the spot. Let's see how quickly I can pull up these divisions here. So Dallas.
By the way, I have a wins future on odds for the wins for the Niners over whatever it's like 11.5 or 10.5. I do have that odds play still in play for me right now.
There you go. So let's see. Hold on. So Dallas against the NFC or against the conference. Here we go. They are 6-3 in conference play. Eagles are 6-1. So if both finish with the same record, both finish with the same divisional record, but both still went out. Aside from last week, the Eagles would probably be 6-2.
They'll probably be the division winners on.
And by conference record, if the Eagles lose next week, but then still win out, and the Cowboys and Eagles have the same record, Eagles would probably still own that tiebreaker based on the better conference record that they have. So, and again, the Cowboys, they got to face the Lions too.
Saturday night too.
So the Cowboys are by no means they do not have an easy run either. This is all to say that I think right now the Eagles still very much are in the driver's seat for that 1 seed. I think today is more just, if you're the Eagles, the message you're trying to say is, have this one. We can still host. We're still going to host this party in January. That's the one you really need to beat. If this is the game you win, and again, we've seen the Niners. They've had a lot of fun beating rivals in the regular season, and then they kind of fart out against them in the postseason. Shout out the LA Rams, where everyone thought that when the Niners would go there for the NFC title game, it was like, cool, we're going to have a home game in the NFC title game in LA, and then we just get to chill there for 2 weeks and wait for the Super Bowl. And
I was ready for that Bengals Niners Super Bowl rematch. Anyways,
it would have been a great one too. I think the Niners probably would have won that one as well. But again, it's just not how things worked out. So the Niners, again, they could do great in the regular season, and that comes down to Kyle Shanahan at that point. And we talked about how Shanahan really was in his bag today with some of these play calls here.
I feel like the king of the motion, I like to say, is Mike Shanahan. Then the Prince, the dawn of Prince, or like the dawn of rock and roll.
The apple is not falling far from the tree at all.
No, it's Kyle Shanahan. Then Mike McDaniel, the apprentice of the motion offense and stuff, is there. I also say this is huge for the Niners because they have the 2 big wins over the NFC East.
That's right. They own it. Well, and the Cowboys, I refuse to believe in the Cowboys as legitimate contenders. I know Dak's playing well. He's an MVP candidate, but come on. We've seen this story with Dak before. He's a great fantasy quarterback. You know who else was a great fantasy football quarterback? Phillip Rivers. What did Phillip Rivers ever win besides a bunch of, fancy fantasy football trophies for people who drafted him? Like,
he made me lose a fantasy football trophy anyways.
You're not taking Dak and Mike McCarthy, that duo, seriously in a playoff series. They're going to have the Cowboys are set with the 5th spot. They're going to have an easy game on the road against whoever comes out of the NFC South. Whoever wins that slop fest could be Atlanta. It could be it's probably going to be Atlanta. The Saints, I think, announced that they're no longer in the running today after getting beaten by the Lions. Panthers are obviously
they can collect their hats and T-shirts as long as the Carolina Panthers for participating in this year's NFL season, as Tony Bruno would say.
So the NFC South is a garbage show. So the Cowboys are going to have an easy win there. And then the fun thing is it really, I think, comes down to what these playoff matchups look like. If the Lions can win in the first round and the Lions have to come to the Bay Area in the second round, Cowboys Eagles in the playoffs though,
It hasn't happened in a while.
That could get dicey, especially because it's when you play a team 3 times in a year. It's especially if they're coming off a sweep. That it's hard for teams to beat a team 3 times in 1 year. I mean, the Niners did it last year with the Seahawks, but the Seahawks sucked.
The Cowboys did it to the Eagles in 2009, actually, because we faced them like week 17, which we lost, and we came back a couple days later. We lost on Saturday night.
It's tough, but it can happen, especially. But divisional matchups are different.
Oh yeah.
it would be interesting.
I was cheering for the Giants, like, oh, beat the Vikings. I want to see you divisional weekend. Anyways, I have no problem beating up.
Oh yeah, no, it would have been so. Yeah, you guys would have had the Cowboys in the second round instead, and the Niners would have had it easy against the Vikings in the second round.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just so right now, yeah, that 3-6s, I believe, Vikings and Lions right now.
That
could change though, because I think the Vikings are on bye, obviously. And let's get the updated playoff standings right now. The current 6 seed is still the Vikings.
The 7th seed is Los Angeles Rams.
The Rams. So the Rams are creeping up there. So either way, the Lions are probably getting the Vikings or the Rams, or maybe even the Seahawks. There's an outside chance there. So if the Lions can pull one of those off, then yeah, Eagles Cowboys in the second round, that could be disrupting to this Eagles Niners. But again, that's something for down the line there. But again, I feel like we're so focused on what's going to come next, because this game, I feel like, just did not tell us a whole lot in terms of what these teams can actually do to each other.
I felt like we just wrote a chapter, like Eagles Niners, the rematch is just a chapter or a forward in a book.
Yeah. Like, I don't think this makes the loss in January feel any less bad. I don't think just because they won like they did today means they would have won like they did today back in January. But what it does do is what this win does do for the Niners is it does give you the belief that, you know what, if need be, we can run with these guys.
Yeah.
Even, if they weren't 100% today, like, because there's probably a little bit in the back of your head that's saying, you know what, yeah, we didn't have Brock Purdy, but oh man, they still beat us. Like, what if they were actually just better? No, I think what this win does say is, you know what, we are on equal footing right now. Like, now it is even. Now we know that if we're at our best and if they're at their best, we can handle them. I think that's the message you can take away here with the Niners is, yeah, you got a little bit of a confidence boost. It's not the confidence boost, but you can feel a little bit better knowing that, you know what, we're not crazy when we're saying, that we should have won back in January, because they very well could have won if Brock stayed healthy.
Absolutely. It could go either way, these games. I will say this. This is just like, I like to say, Niners, you could have this game. I'll give you the buffet. Here you go. Enjoy, But then, like, we'll see. I feel like I said this to you, and I said this to my other people. Like, I'm not mad. Like, I'll see you guys in a rematch in the NFC.
The only thing I would worry about is if Kyle Shanahan maybe figured out a hack on your guys' defense. But again, that said, like, he really started.
He owns Sean Desai. I'll say that for sure. That's the Eagles defensive coordinator.
Okay. But I think part of it's like, how much is it with just that Shanahan figured out your guys' offense today versus just because he seemed like he was really kind of taking advantage of that middle part of the field today. A lot of those kind of quick checkdowns, the in routes inside, those crossover routes. I know that first touchdown to Debo, they kind of have him run a slant route that was kind of disguised underneath a bunch of drag routes there, really taking advantage of the middle of the field there. But again, how much that was Shanahan seeing something versus what Shanahan's, well, I guess,
what could be
Shanahan clearly saw something that he could exploit there. Was what he exploited just the fact is that the Eagles didn't have their starting linebackers. I know we touched on that at the beginning of the show here, but I kind of want to circle back on that. How much is what the Eagles struggled on defense was simply because they did not have their starters available?
The thing is, the Eagles defense, like that middle linebacker group, sometimes they could read coverages, sometimes they can't read coverages. That was the biggest problem coming into the season with Nakobe Dean, who was starting, who looked during the Patriot game, and now he's out. It's just the defense is very questionable. Like Shaq Leonard right now is like he was at Eagles facilities this week because he was between the Cowboys and the Eagles for signing for his like where he wants to go next, and he passed the Eagles physical, so it could mean something coming up soon in the possible rematch of the NFC title game.
Yeah, again, so they can get more reinforcements. Yeah, so I think because you got to figure that when that time comes around, you're going to have a more healthy roster there.
Yeah. I also said this too. Chase Young facing the Eagles for a third time is also huge too, because he probably knows that offensive line like the back of his hand pretty much.
You didn't see a whole lot of Chase Young and Nick Bosa today. I think their stat sheet was really good. One thing they did do a lot though was I think they were good at, and this is where I think Bosa really excelled today, was he did a great job of forcing Jalen Hurts to roll out to his left a lot, which was not his strong side. I think Greg Olsen mentioned this in the first. He
was right a lot.
Hurts was rolling out to the right a lot early on and really getting those deep passes down to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. That's really what kind of set up those first two drives that ended in field goals there. Later, as the game progressed, though, all of a sudden you start seeing Hurts forced out left. And that's not his strong side because, again, he's got to get those shoulders around. It's harder to make those downfield throws when you're running against your dominant hand there. And so Nick Bosa, I mean, let me see if I can pull up the stats here really quick on what Nick Bosa did today. But overall, I think statistically, if you look at the numbers, kind of a quiet day. Yeah, 2 tackles. He assisted on 4, 6 combined tackles total. No sacks. The only sacks today, though, came from Javon Kinlaw.
Yeah.
Breaking that 3-year streak. But it's very easy to say, like, oh, Nick Bosa didn't really do anything today. No, what Nick Bosa did was he really forced Jalen Hurts into a lot of uncomfortable situations. And then he had to play late in the third quarter where, again, Bosa forces Hurts up into the pocket. He's forced to run in. Yeah, it was late in the third quarter. Bosa forces Hurts up into the pocket. Hurts has to, scramble for his life right into the waiting arms of Fred Warner. And that's when Hurts ended up
I looked at that. I looked at it. I said, you dumb. That's like the worst thing to do, run into Fred Warner, who probably looked like you gave him a concussion almost.
That's one thing I really love about the 49ers defensive line. I have a friend that she pointed this out. It's like the way the 49ers defensive line attacks, it's like a wolf pack, really. Not the hangover wolf pack, but like an actual, like real wolf pack where you got Chase Young, Nick Bosa on the edge. If they're not able to get the prey, they can at least corral it and force it up into the middle, up to the waiting arms of Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, and Fred Warner. And that was a textbook play. That was textbook of how they did that there. Bosa and Young weren't able to get there, but they were able to hold that contained, force him up into the pocket there. And this is something I said at the close of the morning roast on Friday. That's going to be my key to the game. Can Bosa and Young, I don't really need them to get sacks in this game, but can they keep Jalen Hurts contained, keep him from rolling out of the pocket? And when they started forcing him to the left and forcing him up, that's when Eagles, they're going to be in trouble there because they're forcing Jalen Hurts out of his comfort zone. So I know the numbers will say that Nick Bosa and Chase Young didn't do a whole lot today because they didn't get any sacks and didn't get a whole lot of tackles. But no, their presence was absolutely felt today, and they were a big reason why the Eagles offense was really never able to get anything going against this 49ers defense, because Hurts was just being harassed and thrown in the situations that he can't excel in.
Yeah, it's crazy how pressure equals Hurts not performing well in big time games. So I will say this as my thing. I also said this. Now their Eagles are 0-5 now in NFC title rematches, which I looked at.
That's a wild stat. What's a wilder stat? There was that stat, or there was I don't know if you saw the stat that Jay Kuda tweeted out last week on Thursday night, where the Lions on Thanksgiving are 0-12 on Thanksgiving waning gibbous moon.
I think I will say this: the waning giving moon is the coolest.
That might be one of the wildest stats I have ever seen. And it was just like, I saw that stat in the morning. I'm like, oh my God, I could absolutely see them losing today.
I saw it, like
all those people who smashed the Lions on the betting line that day. Just like, I'll say, when the Lions lost that game last week, it was like, that was a win for the blue-haired astrology girls everywhere.
Yes.
I texted our show thread with the phrase, don't tell me advanced stats don't matter. These are the analytics that I'm here for. I want to know who does well when the moon is in a certain position.
I want to know this person. I want him to have on the Upper World Podcast live next time. Anyway,
he's one of the probably the better. I love stupid, obscure stats absolutely make sense like that. Like, I love stupid stuff like that because it's a perfect example of just like correlation and causation aren't always connected there. There's not always a cause and effect. Sometimes I tweeted this out. Sometimes you just made a weird deal with the witch and you got to pay for it somehow. Like that's just how it is.
Maybe it's a Matt Millen effect of curse. Like, you will lose this many Thanksgiving Day games anyways.
It's wild. But yeah, no, the Eagles being 0-5 in NFC title game rematches the next year. So what about well, I know, because I remember the Eagles made those 4 NFC title games in the early 2000s.
They all lost those games. That's the thing. Of when they win them, they lose them. The games the following year, anyway. So,
well, no, they won the 4th one, or they won one of those games. They still made it to the Super Bowl.
Atlanta.
Yeah, who are the other 3 teams they lost to in those NFC title games?
Tampa, the Rams. They won the following year.
The Rams, greatest Sean Turth. Okay.
They lost to Tampa. They lost to Tampa again the following year to open up the link and shut out. They lost to the Panthers in 2003, but they beat the Panthers in 2004. And they lost.
Okay, so they got at least one rematch win.
Yeah, like they got.
Was those 0-4? Was that those 4 years that those 0-4 happened there? Those rematches.
The 2001 was the Rams, and 2001 was the Rams NFC title. 2002 was the rematch, which the Eagles won with AJ Feely.
Okay.
2003 was the 2003 was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was McNabb, and they lost opening night on Monday Night Football versus the Bucs.
Okay.
They lost to the NFC title game versus the Panthers in 2003, which was 2004.
Yeah.
Because they beat the Packers in overtime, 4th and 26. Shout out to Freddie Mitchell, by the way. So I like to say all the time. and they beat the Panthers the following year, and they won versus the Falcons at home, and they lost to the Falcons Monday Night Football in 2005, when the start of the beef of the T.O. and Donovan McNabb.
Okay, so these rematches are all somewhat recent. I'm trying to see what other NFC title games they've gone to. So
2008, they didn't play the Cardinals in 2009, which was weird. So
yeah, so let's see. So going back, so in 1980, the year they won the Super Bowl, they beat the Cowboys.
They lost to the Cowboys the following year. They got swept by them.
Well, again, yeah, your divisional opponent, you're playing them twice, and then let's see, and then they did not get back to the NFC until they played the Rams, and so then the Rams, Bucks, Panthers, and then Panthers again. So
we literally went through the NFC South onslaught anyways.
Back when the NFC South was relevant. Let's see. So then a couple of years later, you lost to the Cardinals in 2008. Did you guys play them again in 2009? I guess not, because that would have been included there. Then
we played the Vikings in 2017 for the NFC title game. We lost at 2018, which I was at that game.
Okay. Wow, that is just wild how that all works out. And now they're 0-5 now after face that. So
I'm not even mad.
That's when the rematch is the next year. That is when that stat is. So when they play them the next year, they're 0-5. Okay, I got it.
So you can write that down. I told you ahead of time. I was like, you might as well tell.
That might have been the betting stat. I passed that along. I think it was brought up on the show at one point, either Thursday or Friday. I don't remember when. But I definitely remember that was put on there. But again, that's a weird little fact, because really none of those losses are ever connected.
As I always like to tell people, it's always nice to have an Eagle fan in your back pocket, like me. Anyways,
I know a few of them. Luckily, the ones I know don't suck. So I'm sure what's gonna be really fun tomorrow, though. I think for me, as someone who has to screen a bunch of phone calls, is I'm not going to hear from a single Eagles fan tomorrow. Now,
can I be honest with you? I did not know how many Philadelphia callers called into your show. Like, I used to call back in the day. I'm retired because I work in the business. I wanted to call in just to troll, but I really was like, nah, I'm good. I don't have.
Well, I think 33 callers on Thursday when the Smack Talk really opened up. I'd say half of them were Eagles fans. We had
Chuck from Mount Airy.
On Friday we had Chuck from Mount Airy on. I guess that was the guy who Bryce Harper hit a home run for.
Yes.
It's like, dude, if that's the guy you're hitting home runs for, like, my God, do better.
At least
like, we had him come on. He tried to talk that smack, and Bonte hits him with a name one Eagles player from the 90s. Silence then. Ooh, that's tough. That's tough. Come on, man.
Eagles.
We had Bill Romanowski on later that day. Like, you literally could have gone with him.
Connecticut's own Bill Romanowski from Southington.
Bill oh man, he was just so. I think he kind of called it out. The Niners defense is a lot better than the Eagles defense. The Niners are just a meaner team than the Eagles. I thought early on those first two drives, I thought it's like, man, are the Eagles tougher than the Niners here? The Niners, are they more of a finesse team? But no, they flipped that script very quickly. And the Niners let them know that, hey, when we get angry, because there was definitely some anger in this win. Deebo Samuel, the most angry of them all. I think again, we give Brock Purdy our love, but I think today was definitely the Deebo Samuel day.
He also shut up.
Deebo was the one. Too. Yeah, he was the one who was talking the loudest. He was the one who was the most steadfast and not backing down and backing off. Brandon Ayuk was just kind of like, yeah, I'm over it. Let's see what happens next. Everyone else was just kind of moving forward with it. But Deebo Samuel was the one who just was like, nah, I'm talking that ish, and I'm going to stand by it. And then he went out, he backed it up today. So you know what, Deebo, keep doing that. Need you to do that again in January, though.
I'm kind of happy you got your word in, Deebo Samuel, and you just dunk on having the people just dunk on what's the word? I think we all anticipate an Eagles loss, but not that kind of loss. I'm fine with the loss anyways. Like, it doesn't matter how the loss is. If it's a blowout, that's fine. I'm not mad. I'll see the Cowboys next week anyway.
Yeah, it seemed, I think it was kind of like towards the end of the first half, you could really notice that the Eagles defense was starting to run out of gas. But yeah, it's when
it was cooked.
When it was that drive in the that second drive the Niners had in the third quarter, when they go up 28-13, and then the Eagles come out, they get their first 3 and out of the day. That felt like that was it. The Eagles just kind of they ran out of gas there. The Niners score again, then Mariota comes back in, and it's just like, yeah, this game is over here. I mean, the Eagles did score on that drive that Mariota was in for. Hurts comes back in, leads a touchdown drive, but the Niners we're not trying to get hurt mode right now. Let them score whatever, get the ball back. Deebo then ices the game. But yeah, I mean, that was obviously the moment where things turned. I think that was the moment where really just the Eagles defense just got gassed. I mean, they scored. I think the Niners scored on every single drive the rest of the way after starting out on those 2 3 and outs. And
0 for 2.
I think part of it was Kyle Shanahan figures something out there. Let's maybe go to the middle, start getting McCaffrey involved here. And then after that, it was like, well, yeah, now these guys are just tired.
I love how I have every Niner fan I don't even know. They're just showing up in the chat today. So it's nice to see them.
I hope Niner fans call WIP 94 WIP tomorrow. Like I heard Fillmore might call in there the other day. He did all right, but I was talking to one of the midday producer at 94 WIP. He's like, yeah, the Bay Area callers are kind of soft. I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right.
It sounds like Miami. Sounds like Miami. Who is softer, the Miami callers or the Bay Area callers? Who would win in a fight? I like to say.
I mean,
I will give it to the Bay Area. I will give it to the Bay Area caller. I'll say that.
Yeah, we'll have some good ones here. I feel like Bay Area fans, we're more lovers, not fighters.
Yeah.
We're all about let's just sit back, smoke a blunt, and just enjoy and just some friendly smack talk. Eagles fans, they gotta take it up an extra level, and they gotta make it personal. You got one guy, I think was at one of the other, big time. I think it was Chuck. He dropped the fruitcake word. Like, come on, man. Like, there's ways to do this. You could have fun with this, or you could just be a buzzkill about it. Like, that's why I think. Like, I remember last year when the Niners lost, and the next day I had Eagles fans calling in. The thing that frustrated me the most wasn't that they were calling in and talking trash. I didn't really care that much. It was the trash talk was terrible. Like Eagles fans were terrible about talking trash after the fact.
I always say most Eagle fans are horrible at trash talk. I just bring it like funny with the trash talk anyway. So boom.
Yeah, it was the amount of Eagles fans who all they'd come up with was bang bang bird gang. It was just like, my God, you guys are literally about to lose to Andy Reid in the Super Bowl. Why? Like, this is the best you can come up with? Like, this is sad.
That's from Roan from Barstool Sports. He started that whole thing anyways.
Bang, bang, Berg. Of course, it's the Barstool guy. See, there's your problem. You're taking your cues from Barstool people, Eagles fans. Come on, be better.
He's a Philly guy, too. That's the funnier part, too.
Anyways. Yeah, there you go. Philly and Barstool. That's a match made in idiot heaven.
And a battle rapper, too, also, which is kind of crazy.
Battle, whatever. Yeah, I don't understand the world anymore.
Other than that, we got a subscriber out of this, by the way.
Oh, there you go. Glad I could help out.
So the Upper World Podcast Live is a hit for Niner fans now, and there's a few Eagle fans on here, and the other non. We have
I don't see how many people are watching right now. How many people
we got a couple people, and the Sportscape is one of my buddies from. He's a Patriot fan. Shalom, because the Patriots are horrendous, losing to Brandon Staley 6-0. So that was brutal.
Yeah.
So,
all right. No, real quick. I know we were talking Niners Eagles here. I want to take a few minutes. The college football playoff Final Four is announced today. What did you think of that Final Four there?
Florida State, eat your heart out.
I'm a Miami fan. I love watching Florida State be miserable. Not like that though. They should have been in over Bama.
I kind of wanted Michigan. So here's the thing with me. I really wanted Michigan, Washington at the Rose Bowl.
That would have been perfect because I'm the biggest of tradition. Although I wear Arizona State stuff, I am the big fan of Pac-12 After Dark next to the next person too. I have family who went to Cal. I have family who are USC fans. I have family who went to Boulder too. I'm bummed that the Pac-12 is gone now because I love late night football, the conference of quarterbacks, the conference of champions, and Bill Walton just talking basketball and funny stuff. And ironically, the Pac-12 has one of its best years ever.
Yeah,
and one of the best title games ever in its last year.
I'm so bummed about it. I'm so bummed. It's like Oregon with Washington, which you never thought. Like everyone was expecting Washington, USC, or anything. I'm bummed about it. It's like I love the Pac-12 by heart. I wish it was Florida State, Miami, Florida State, Michigan would have been fun. I think it would have been a fun Final Four. And like if you had no SEC teams.
Well, I think that's what it comes down to is that the SEC has to, like the SEC just has a birthright now. I think there's the way I look at it's like, I pulled up the determining factors for the college football playoff and determining like tiebreakers and stuff like that. Obviously, conference championships matter, but there's strength of schedule, and it feels like there's always going to be a bias towards the SEC when it comes to strength of schedule. Never mind the fact that, again, FSU went 12-0 against the ACC. They still beat Clemson. They still beat Miami. They beat LSU. They beat LSU by more than Alabama did. They beat a ranked Duke team. I mean, FSU had 3 wins over ranked teams versus Alabama's 4. I know everyone thinks that, Alabama got the big win over Georgia.
I didn't think that was a big win for Alabama. I was like, cool, you won a conference title.
You beat a banged up Georgia team, but again, it's just like you had an undefeated. I do think at the end of the day, it came down to the fact that Florida State's offense looked abysmal without Jordan Travis there. And it was either they could do what they did with TCU and Cincinnati the last couple of years, where it's like, well, technically they covered all the bases, so let's put them in. And then they end up getting rolled in those games. Like Cincinnati, like they put them in, I think it was 2020 they put them in there. 2021. They let Cincinnati in. There's like, fine, we'll let one of these group of 5 teams in. And they get absolutely motorboated by Alabama in the first round. It's like, you see, this is why we don't put you guys in these games. We just wasted a spot on you. And so I feel like it's one of those things there with, like, yes, technically Florida State has checked all the boxes, but this is where the argument I hate when it comes to college football playoff. Well, what if they played each other? Who would actually win? It's like, you know what? If that's supposed to be what determines it, then put it in the rules. These are the rules. Conference championships ones, strength of schedule, head-to-head competition, comparative outcomes of common opponents without incentivizing margin of victory, and then other relevant factors such as unavailability of players and coaches, that could have impacted team's performance. Nowhere in the College Football Playoff Committee's bylaws does it simply say, ask yourself the question, who would win one-on-one? If that's how you determine it, then put it in the rules. Just give me some consistency and try and do something to hide the fact that the SEC is bankrolling all of this college football playoff nonsense.
I know. And here's the other thing. Texas, Michigan would have been a great game. Michigan, Washington, great game. Michigan, Florida State would have been a fantastic game because it would have been so entertaining.
A good defensive struggle, yeah.
A good defensive struggle. And to see, I'm also at that point right now. I'm not sticking up to Matt, your program, who's a Michigan guy. I love Michigan guys as well. I really want Jim Harbaugh just to stick it, like, beat the crap out of Bama and beat whoever, like if it's Washington or whoever, or like Texas. I just want a classic game, and Harbaugh just stick a middle finger to the NCAA as he takes an NFL job.
See, I think did you see Michigan react to getting Alabama? Yes. It was just like, oh crap! I mean, yay! Like, they know what's coming. Saban's gonna roll all over Michigan, send Harbaugh back to the NFL, which is ironic because Saban can't cut it in the NFL. And then, unfortunately, I really am afraid that we're just gonna get another Alabama championship out of this.
I don't want an Alabama championship. I'm sick and
tired of Nick Saban winning. I don't like Nick Saban. He's the devil. He's a little devil man.
He's the worst, as what I like to quote the great Jim Mandich. He's the biggest beast third that's ever showed up in Miami.
He is the sole reason why oatmeal cream pies are still a thing.
They probably still sell those at Buc-ee's, but Buc-ee's is still great, by the way, the greatest gas station of all time. I will say this: the Pac-12. I'm bummed that we're losing it. I'm bummed that the ACC has gained Cal, which is, I like to say, Cal Miami, the next greatest rivalry of all time. I will say that for sure.
I'll be there next year, Strawberry Canyon, when they come to town.
They're coming. Are they going to Cal or Miami first?
Miami's coming out here.
Ooh,
so very excited for that one.
I may have to come out for that. Maybe I may have to. Yeah. I'll make the trip out. Other than that,
well, my dad went to Cal, so obviously that'll be a fun one for us. So I grew up a big Cal fan, so that's gonna be a fun. That's gonna be a kind of a fun, full circle moment for me. Because the idea of going to Miami really started for me when Miami played Cal in the Emerald Bowl in 2008. And so now here we are, 16 years later, they're going to be meeting up again, and it's going to be in the same conference. It'll be a fun moment for me, I think. So
I think it'll be fun there, and I think it'll be more fun that we get there's a lot of Cal grads I found out I live down in South Florida.
Oh, really?
Palm Beach. Yeah, my cousin's one, and there's so many other people, by the way. I think the Cal fan base coming down to Miami for Canes, Cal Golden Bears versus Miami Hurricanes. This will be the biggest alumni party of all time. I'll say that for sure. We may even see Aaron Rodgers and Jason Kidd at the same party, maybe.
Ooh, yeah.
That'll be entertaining. And I will make sure to get
Aaron Rodgers won't be taking shots.
Hey. Are there any takeaways in the NFL this week? I will say
just to kind of wrap things up here, put a bow. I think it's, again, at the end of the day, the Niners Eagles are the two teams. I mean, the Chiefs, until one of the receivers learns how to catch a football, they're going to be up in the air. The Ravens, without Mark Andrews, I kind of need to see more of a sample size from them and what they can do, but they look like the most complete team in football before he went down. It'll be interesting to see what happens there with them. The Bengals are obviously out of it now.
I'm bummed about I love the Bengals to watch as a feel good because I went to college out in Ohio and I love Joe Burrow, what he does, everything. He was the perfect thing. And I'm bummed that they're not there in the playoffs. I love Cincinnati fans next to the next person. Like, that's the only AFC North fan base I like, anyways. Is a Cincinnati fan. They're the most classiest. They love the party. They want to have fun.
So, I mean, I just I feel like a few weeks ago we were just being like, oh man, the AFC looks so stacked. Now none of the top, like the Dolphins, no one's taking them seriously in the playoffs right now. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know who your best team in the AFC is right now. In the AFC East, I mean, who's you got the Dolphins there,
Bills,
Bengals in the North, and the South. I mean, the South is going to be between the Jaguars and the Texans, the surprising Texans. But again, I don't think that the Jaguars could maybe win a playoff game, but right now the AFC just looks so jumbled right now because your top two teams got question marks in the Chiefs and Ravens.
They got
whereas the Niners and Eagles
looked about as locked in as you possibly can. I mean, that's those, I think, are your 4 Super Bowl contenders right now, but 2 of those teams are clearly better than the other 2 teams.
I would not be surprised when we find out later this week about the Zach Ertz move. Where will he land? Is it Philadelphia?
Yeah.
Is it Baltimore?
The Eagles might need him there because, again, you said it, without Dallas Goedert, Eagles offense is looking very different there. And it's kind of imagine the Niners offense without George Kittle.
Or Deebo Samuel. Think about that, because
Yeah.
I saw that during the Browns game, which Jake Moody missed a kick. I saw that Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
The Niners were not there. I was like, holy Christ. So I think it's really going to be really interesting what's going to happen this week, especially with the Shaq Leonard contract. Zach Ertz is on waivers right now. He's going to make his decision soon. He may show up at midnight game, or he
could be coming. Yeah.
Enforcements are coming. It's waiver season, I like to say. Yeah. So Sam Lubman, I will say this: we went an hour and I had a lot of fun. So
yeah, we did pretty good. We hit everything here, considering how this game didn't really give us a whole lot of nitty gritty details to get into.
No. But Dom Solinsky will not be getting a sandwich anytime soon.
That dude looks like an Italian mob boss, like bodyguard or something. Like, he's the dude who's walking, like Nick Sirianni's the mob boss. He's the Godfather. And then you got, Dom, the most Dom looking Dom ever, walking behind him, just like mean mugging everybody. He's probably, he looks like one of those intense mob boss bodyguards who secretly wants to just kind of get out of the business and start a little restaurant.
Yes, definitely. And he will not be getting any sandwiches soon, but I will say that was the only thing that happened.
Very Italian.
Very Italian. I will say this. That led to at least give us one story to talk about. Dom Solinsky. If any of the Bay Area people need any questions, there's a highlight reel of the best of Dom. He's already gotten fans out of the way. I will send that to you anyways. So.
Oh, I would love to see that. I didn't know this guy has a history, so that's perfect.
Yes. So Sam, where can everyone follow you and where everyone could listen to you?
Oh, yeah. Twitter is at slubman59. You can also, make sure you're listening to the Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game every morning from 6 to 10. And we'll be on tomorrow morning. Listen to us on the free Odyssey app, also available on YouTube and Twitch.
I love you guys on YouTube and Twitch because I feel like more sports radio stations seem to be on digital platforms, and I love it because there's something else to watch than talking head shows. I will say that for sure.
Yeah,
so
that is true. So.
I always say this: it's better than First Take. Getting to see Bonte I'm ready for Bonte to come out in a crown and a cape and everything to say that we're back. I'm ready for that. Or Shasky, he's number one killer right now. Everyone roasts.
They're going to be very much in their feels tomorrow. It's going to be a gloat fest. So that'll be fun. That'll make it easy for me. So
let me know if you need me to come in. I don't mind getting roasted at all. I'm ready. So.
I'll see if there's an opening for sure.
Oh, let me know. Give me a call. So, all right, people. I don't know if we're gonna do this again, but I feel like we should. So
we'll figure it out at some point. You know how to find me. So
we do it. All right, guys. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you guys later.